Nature's beauty. Nature's fury. To know her intimately, you must experience her extremes. There are no rules, no boundaries, no timeouts. Action heroes in the flesh, those who dare to push the limits, reap the rewards. But the bottom line, however, is that living this close to the edge, an error can prove fatal. From high above the earth to deep beneath the sea, prepare to dive into the action and be as close as you can get. The science of extreme sports. The era of modern skydiving has arrived in a new form of descent known as Freeflight. Out of aircraft, off tall cliffs and man-made structures, people now take to the sky by every method possible and push the limits even further. Join professional skydiver, base jumper and cameraman Mike Vail on an exploration into the three-dimensional world of human flight.
Free flying has completely flipped the skydiving world upside down, literally. Free flying's probably more of kind of an attitude than an actual sport. Free flying would be getting together with your friends, 2 or 3 or 10 or 20. You get out of the plane and go for it. Bust a bunch of tricks. Just body surfing in the air. The traditional skydiving is laying on your stomach. It's one-dimensional. You have up and down, you're laying there like this to go faster. You try and make your belly go faster, whereas when we free fly, there's no body position rules. You go from your stomach to your head, and you'll go between 120 miles an hour to 180, 200 miles an hour standing on your head. You can do barrel rolls, twists, stand up, sit down, lay on your back. You see a big puffy cloud, you fly over there and circle around it, do barrel rolls, doing 200 miles an hour. It's great. Anybody can huck themselves out of a plane. It depends on what you do when you get out, if you can actually fly or you're just like a dead body flopping around in the wind. A lot of people have this misconception that you're just falling. Yeah, you will always be going down, but you can go in so many different directions. Just modify your body. If you want to fly over that way, you just fly over that way, just like you're dreaming. There's a million different things to do up there, and it's nice not to get stuck into one dimension. And that's cool.
Parachuting was developed mostly out of the military's need to abandon aircraft or to insert troops into battle. Freefall was limited to the length of the static line that deployed the canopy for the ride back down to Earth. The canopies were round and offered little control to the jumper. Landings were usually fast downwind and were hard on the body. The breakthrough came with the development of lightweight, low-permeable fabrics and the technology to create a pressurized ram air canopy that acts more like a wing than a traditional parachute. These new canopies can be flown with accuracy, offer flatter glide angles, and are flared upwind for a tiptoe landing. Both the main and reserve canopies fit within an aerodynamic container system and harness. This radical new design, combined with advancements in safety equipment and procedures, has enabled skydivers to be highly maneuverable, both in freefall and under canopy.
I've been free flying about 10 years. I have about 8,000 skydives. And as far as being scared or having butterflies, it's gotten to the point where it's a really natural thing for me. I know my gear, I know it's safe. I have one malfunction in 8,000 skydives. That's proof right there that the gear is really good these days. I think when people see skydiving on TV or anywhere they're exposed to it, their first reaction is that those guys, they're crazy, they got a death wish. And you hear that so many times, it gets annoying because they're just saying that out of ignorance where they don't understand the flying part of it. The danger level is totally up to you. You pack your parachute right, it opens. If you don't, it doesn't. Don't just end up at the bottom of a skydive and look down and go, oh my God, and pull. You know, you're gonna get hurt like that. If you're gonna open low, do it on purpose. Throw a sweet pack job in there and take it deep. You gotta be very conscious about what danger level you're playing with.
What drives people to jump out of a perfectly good airplane? Most try it simply to experience the unusual and exciting feeling of weightlessness during freefall. The simplest way to do your first skydive is to do a tandem jump attached to a certified instructor. Amid the roar of the engine, thoughts and emotion fill your head as you realize that in moments you will step out into the open sky. For the licensed skydiver, this is a fun but serious activity that requires one's full attention, even before boarding the aircraft. Beyond the possible dangers associated with flying in an airplane, once you exit, you are completely your own responsibility. as no one will be able to help you if you have a mid-air problem. Careful spotting from the aircraft door gives an understanding of the weather found at different altitudes. To land on target, the skydiver must understand the forces that will be encountered after exiting the aircraft.
Ready, 5, ready, set, go.
Both during freefall and while under canopy, the maneuvering area will become smaller and more critical with every passing second. The typical sport jumping exit is done from 13,000 feet, 4,000 meters, during which freefall may last up to 1 minute before parachute deployment. Rapidly gaining downward vertical speed, after 8 seconds the body reaches a terminal velocity of approximately 130 miles per hour if it remains in the stable belly-to-earth position. Making different postures, the skydiver can then increase or decrease vertical speed and may move horizontally across the sky to keep on target. Modern skydiving has seen a revolution in freefall acrobatics, now known as Freeflight, with almost any maneuver possible except upward flight. At around 3,000 feet, 1,000 meters, the skydiver deploys his parachute and then corrects his heading in relation to the landing area, taking into consideration the ground winds, thermals, and any obstacles that may be present. This altitude also allows the skydiver time to correct any problems with the canopy to make a safe landing. Once a skydiver understands how to spot from the aircraft and to land on target, they can begin to enjoy the flight.
There's no standard exit ever. You can ball up, you can just dive out. Depends on the airplane, where the door is. A lot of times these airplanes will have a couple of handles on the roof of the plane so you can hold on and get outside and make room in the door for people. While you're climbing outside, you gotta be careful. You don't want to climb on an airplane unless you know your gear is tight. If your pilot chute flies out while you're outside of there and you tear off somebody's tail of their airplane, they're gonna crash. You can get hurt pretty easy. If you slide off and hit your head on the tail, or you snag on something, get hung up, you know, and the guy starts descending with you stuck on the outside of the airplane. I mean, all that kind of stuff happens, and you gotta make sure you think about that before you get out there and start doing something like this.
After exiting the aircraft, the body is thrown forward at the same speed that the aircraft is traveling before becoming stable in an arched belly-to-earth position, known as the basic freefall position. In this relaxed posture, the air flows evenly around the body's exposed surfaces. This relative wind acts as a supporting cushion of air that gives the feeling of weightlessness. Altering the body's profile to this rising force of pressure causes rapid changes to the body's position in the sky. Forward loops, back loops, and barrel rolls are easily achieved by increasing the air resistance on the exposed arm and leg surfaces. By shifting the arms back to the hips, reducing the supporting drag around the head and torso, this initiates a head-down dive, known as the delta, that can increase vertical speed dramatically. Head-down speeds can exceed 300 miles per hour, almost 200 miles per hour faster than terminal velocity of belly-to-earth flying. To achieve maximum horizontal travel across the ground, an exaggerated delta position called a track is used. By cupping the body with palms downward, air is deflected from the head towards the feet in an airfoil shape that can achieve an angle of 35 degrees or more from vertical freefall. During a 10,000-foot freefall, this can add up to over 1.5 miles of ground travel. This is particularly helpful if a skydiver has made a poor spot of the landing area, or to quickly move away from other skydivers before opening the canopy. Extreme, the highest degree, furthest, most severe science, a systemized knowledge of a state of mind or matter. Flying with other skydivers adds another dimension to the experience, but requires planning and communication on the ground to be done safely in the sky. Known as relative work, skydivers perform coordinated maneuvers together at high speeds, requiring delicate body positioning and precise control of vertical fall rate. A momentary loss of control by one member of the team can blow the entire formation and can also be dangerous.
You could easily have a 100-mile-an-hour difference in two people in the air. I'll be going 50 miles an hour faster if I get out last and there's a group down here, I'll be diving down to them to get them. But up here, I'm already slowing down, and then I'm their speed by the time I get to them. Lots of people will come down, whoa, they're diving, and they don't even start slowing down until they get to the group, and then they're like, poof, and then they go real slow, and then the group goes, phew, and you just get this, the worst possible case of different speeds in the air, and then everyone's kind of like, oh God, what's going on, You get down and you're looking at that guy like, what are you thinking, man? We'll run into each other occasionally. If you're going off with a guy you're both in the same speed curve and you're kind of bumping, rubbing elbows, whatever, it's not that big a deal. Where somebody's flying down really fast and this guy falls out of a position and boom, corks up, 50 miles an hour difference, that's bad. It's just like two airplanes running into each other in the air. If they touch real lightly and they're just barely touching, nothing's gonna happen. You run into each other, bam, a wing flies off, you're going in. Towards the end of the skydive, usually 4,000 feet, you start separating. You fly off in your own direction, you use a track. You don't want to open underneath anybody. You want to have their clear space. If somebody opens their parachute underneath you and you're still in free fall, there's your 150 mile an hour speed difference. You're going to go blazing right through this person's parachute. Bam, you're going to run into each other and limbs are falling off and it's all around ugly scene. If all of a sudden that everybody got altitude unaware, somebody kind of looks down and goes, whoa, we're all at 2,000 feet. Nobody's going to be separating too far. It's like you drop the grips, everybody turns around and just parachutes all around each other,
Far out of view from anyone on the ground, skydivers enjoy a dimension all their own. It is only through the use of helmet-mounted cameras that the experience can be shared terrestrially. Having performed thousands of jumps together, Mike Vail, Olav Zipser and Charles Bryan took Freeflight and the imagery to a new level.
There's just some people that you can skydive with that you kind of on the same wavelength. You think the same, you've flown with them a lot and you've worked out a lot of maneuvers together. If I'm filming or taking pictures, I'll be already over there waiting for that move because I know he's going to bust it. The Hollywood thing where they're like skydiving along going, hey, go over here. And you can't hear anybody unless you're real close and you're like screaming. Thunderclouds are just the best. It gives you reference points. You get out of the plane right next to a huge cloud, you can see that, yeah, oh, wow, I am doing about 250 miles an hour right next to it. Stuff's going on, you're in these little canyons. Literally get close enough to them where you can drag your hand through them. It's just dreamland. You look at these big puffy clouds and you always think about when you're a little kid, like, oh wow, I'd like to go walk around on that cloud. And you can, you just have to be skydiving.
Once a skydiver is under a canopy, he becomes a pilot. Just as a glider pilot relies on his knowledge of atmospheric conditions to gain lift, a skydiver must be able to safely navigate his canopy to the landing area. While aloft, the skydiver maneuvers through convection currents and thermal activity produced by the terrestrial environment below. These bubbles of warm air provide lift, slowing down the parachute as well as making for a bumpy ride. The canopy descent can be slow and peaceful, or the skydiver can opt for an aggressive angle of approach that provides an exciting ride and a fast landing. Either way, basic rules of physics and aerodynamics play a very important role in the flight and landing pattern. Headwind, airspeed, ground speed, and glide lift all have to be factored correctly to safely land on target. An upwind landing reduces horizontal ground travel for a more controlled descent, while landing downwind significantly increases ground speed and sink rate, making it too fast to land on your feet or with control. Expert canopy flyers use high G-force turns to lose altitude rapidly in order to land quickly and make the next load on the jump plane. While very impressive to watch from the ground and perform in the air, a slight miscalculation of altitude can be devastating at these speeds and is one of the leading causes of fatalities in skydiving. Other landing hazards include descent into power lines, trees and water, or encountering what is known as a dust devil, a swirling mass of vertically lifting air and dust often found in dry and open fields.
Before, you'd have in the old days guys floating around on round parachutes like Snoopy, just kind of plowing into, power lines, or, kind of landing hard and breaking ankles. You had a lot of that. But the parachute ride on a skydive nowadays is like a whole different sport. You can jump barefoot, but you're just dragging your bare feet over the grass doing 40 miles an hour, and then at the end you plane it up and you set it down.
Yeah!
We do a lot of water landings where we'll just forget about which direction the wind's coming from. Land downwind, crosswind, whatever, just because you're going to plow into the water. Put your feet on the water and you're barefoot water skiing across it, where you would never land on the ground like that. Altitude awareness is probably the most important thing. I mean, you're skydiving. You only have one thing to worry about. You got to know how high above the ground you are. You lose altitude awareness, you're going to be skydiving along, and then out of the corner of your eye, you're going to see a tree, and then bam.
Losing altitude awareness, having a mid-air collision or a bad landing can be deadly mistakes to make. Equipment failures, known as malfunctions, also fall into the category of human error. Malfunctions are usually caused by bad packing of the parachute, poor body positioning during deployment, improper care of the equipment, or a combination of these. In the case of a total malfunction, the canopy does not open and the skydiver remains in free fall. The only option is to rapidly deploy the reserve parachute. A partial malfunction is more difficult to deal with, as the skydiver finds that his main canopy has left the container system and is overhead, but isn't properly deployed. This may put the skydiver into a rapid, uncontrollable spin and must be cleared quickly or cut away. Under a high-speed malfunction, the skydiver may only have seconds to get a functional canopy overhead before what is known as hitting the deck or going in. These are all terrifying aspects of skydiving, but are rare when it is practiced in a safe manner. Statistics prove that modern equipment, combined with proper training and techniques, make it a relatively safe sport.
You just remember you are skydiving, and as safe as you can make it, you're still just flying towards Earth. The underground kind of side of skydiving would definitely have to be base jumping. It's a pretty radical type of skydiving, basically jumping off big rocks, buildings, bridges, anything that's high enough. A lot of people will be skydivers and they'll never touch base jumping, and some people will specifically learn how to skydive just so they can be a base jumper. That's kind of a special person.
Heart rate's doing pretty good. Okay. Ready, set, see.
I guess you could call it a natural form of skydiving. You're not using an airplane to get you up there, you're not burning any gas. You're just borrowing altitude from people who've built big things. It's pretty cool. It's too bad that a lot of the cities and the police and the people that own these big structures, they get really bent out of shape when somebody jumps off them and lives. It's kind of a strange thing that you're allowed to rock climb in national parks and you're not allowed to base jump. Go up there and put chalk all over the walls and throw your excrements off the wall and paper bags and just all around thrash, where you walk up base jump, you leave a pair of footprints at the exit point, another set down in the valley, and then you're out of there. Super low impact, you make a little noise when you open, but that's about it. Base jumping costs a lot less money than skydiving. It's basically free unless you get busted and go to jail, pay a big fine, and they steal your gear from you. You only have one parachute instead of two on a skydive. It's packed completely differently. The parachutes are bigger, they're slower, more forgiving. I have total faith in a one parachute system. They work better than a skydiving parachute. Now, base jumps, you're landing in the woods, you're landing on a city block. If you pull on a base rig, chances are you're going to get a canopy. It might be all messed up, but you're going to get something. There's nothing holding it back. If you have a malfunction, you just take care of it any way you can. The obvious thing on a base jump is you don't pull too low. One of the most important things is during your opening phase of the jump, you're paying attention to which way your canopy is going to start flying when you're opening. If you're on a cliff that's not real high, that didn't give you a chance to fly away from it, and you're opening real close to the wall, you got to be planning on the worst opening you could think of happening right when you open, every time, so you're ready for it. It does happen, and it could happen to you. You know, no matter how safe you try and make it, it's still a fairly dangerous activity. Make sure you have the right pilot chute, that your gear is all tight, nice, and there's no holes, and you know, if there is a hole, it's not real big. It's pretty nice to be able to go into some big bookstore and flip through a book, and there's all these cliffs that you've been on top of and jumped off of. When you're out base jumping, you're usually in just amazing places. The sun comes up and you go, yep, that's the cliff that I heard about. Get a view you're never gonna get anywhere else. Become part of each place you go. You're not just showing up and then leaving.
Where's it go? Yeah!
Having made over 8,000 skydives, as well as hundreds of base jumps, for Mike Vail, skydiving has become a life's passion. A desire to push the limits of the sport even further has materialized into a lifestyle-supporting business. Mike has become one of the select few who works with the marketing and promotions departments of large corporations to create spectacular skydiving performances for the general public.
You want to freak out the crowd on a demo jump without being unsafe. Raging spring break in Lake Havasu. The water was surrounded by canyon with cactus and desert, you know, nowhere to land. It was an Acapulco style cliff diving competition. So these guys are up there jumping off of 75 feet in their Speedos, and we're swooping into the water. There's probably 100 people in inner tubes just partying. We'd swoop right over them, land in the water. And we're just blowing on our rigs, trying to dry them out as fast as we can. Get back on the heli. We've had the chance to take paragliders and hang gliders and hook up underneath them, tow out over the valley, and then go into a big spin and cut away from the hang glider and go into free fall. Really freaks out the paragliding crowd. They're just kind of like, is that legal? It's hairy launching sometimes. He's running off the side of the hill with a guy. Paraglider picks up quite a bit of force. When he goes into a hard carve, you're getting sank down in your seat and you're getting some G's, and then release. And off you go.
Ha-ha! Well, that was scary.
They're having swooping competitions where it has nothing to do with free fall. You go up just high enough in the airplane to get a canopy. Flying parachutes is going to be probably the most exposure skydiving is going to get because it's spectator friendly. Line a ski resort with people all the way down it like a ski race. You know, you come by doing 60 miles an hour, 2 inches off the ground, swooping in and out of gates. Just amazing, doing jumps in all these places that you would never normally get to jump. Phone calls that are coming in nowadays are just getting more and more nuts. These people gave us a Jeep, we rolled it out of the back of a sky van. Rode it like a rodeo bull. And the Jeep goes out, man, starts doing flips. So we're in there a few turns. I come out first, filming Charles in there, and whew, out he comes, you know, and we're watching this Jeep flying around. And I looked down, and it took a while. I saw it hit, but then I heard the sound like it was a bomb going off. It landed upright and just made a big, huge hole. It wasn't looking good for either of us if we were still in it. I wouldn't do that like every day. It's pretty dangerous, but it's pretty weird, you know, getting out of the plane, sitting in a car.
Like many extreme sports, skydiving offers plenty of adventure and expeditions.
My most ultimate adventure was definitely Baffin Island. I think that one's going to be hard to beat. We're in a pretty cool area now, and as usual, there's a lot of big cliffs around us. That's, you know, 3,000–4,000 feet tall. And that one way out there, it's got no name. That's called the Fin. It's like a mile long. That's probably actually about 10 miles away from us. I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna jump that thing. Unreal. We had a helicopter, took us to the top of all these things. Our guide, Mike Lebecki, he's saying, you know, go over here, jump this one. You know, it took me 36 days on the wall to climb it. And, you know, I felt like a spoiled little kid because it took me about 5 minutes to get to the top of that thing in the helicopter. We just went in there and jumped so many of these cliffs, so many times. We all had 2 parachutes, and it was like a skydiving center, and we'd land, and the helicopter would pick us up real quick, and we'd take our second parachute up there and jump it again.
Yeah, big ball, buddy. Yeah! You hear me screaming?
Totally. Just before you pulled, man, I heard you yell out the battle cry.
True adventure is always subject to nature's grand forces, especially in the Arctic Circle.
Super windy now. Still bad weather. It stopped raining, but it's howling out there. This sucks. Stuff's flying away. Whoa! Hopefully our tent doesn't fly away too. Oh my goodness. It's pretty much really dumping out there. We're gonna get crushed by an avalanche.
All right, we are here with my big wall buddy McConkey, Miles D for danger, on Ottawa Peak, and it's gigantic, 4,100 feet. 3, 2, 1, yeah!
We jumped Polar Sunspire, and it's gigantic. That's the granddaddy of them all. Just 4,500 feet of sheer overhanging glory. There's one big ledge that you have to clear about 2,000 feet down into the free fall. You start getting some air and then you start flying and you're like, oh yeah, I got that ledge, and you clear that thing. You look back between your legs at that ledge and it's way up there now, and you're still 2,000 feet above the ice. You open the parachute and you're so far away from the wall that, I mean, you can open in any direction. Looking at this thing and knowing I don't have to run away because it's not illegal.
Oh my God.
We got it. That was one of the sickest jumps ever. Feels like one of my first base jumps. A 4,500 foot cliff. Epic.
With another storm moving in, and after a month of traveling, base jumping and living on the ice, it was time to go home.
I think it's time to split. Go back to the land of no shoes and my naked wife. That's gonna be awesome.
With planet Earth surrounded by a big blue sky, modern skydiving and Freeflight are poised to take advantage of this three-dimensional environment. Whether you're experiencing your first jump, mastering head-down free flying, or are suspended under a canopy, the aerodynamics involved are impressive. Equally so is man's desire to fly. The science of extreme sports.